Hello, welcome to a new country. This was known as the homicide capital of the world. But here's the thing, things have really turned around in the last year or so. And it's now one of the safest countries in the whole region. Welcome to El Salvador. Let me show you around for the next week. How did this beautiful country in Central America go from this to this? To keep it simple, there are transnational criminal organizations that started in the 1980s due to social inequality and people fleeing the civil war. But because of weak governance, this turned into organized crime and drug trafficking, which made El Salvador the murder capital of the world. But this was only up until 2022. It's so safe now that I, a solo female traveler, can go around the country on my own. Why? The person running decided to take a strong stance on the organized crime and send thousands to prison. I'll talk more in depth later about how this is a human rights violation. But people are happy. El Salvador is now one of the safest countries in the whole of Latin America. But its dangerous reputation still prevails. I started my trip by flying into San Salvador, the capital, and first visiting the Ruta de las Flores, which means Route of the Flowers. This is a scenic road that connects 5 colonial towns and is the perfect way to jumpstart your visit into the country. We began our journey with a visit to Nahuizalco and Izalco. It's possible to do this on your own, but to save time and not deal with the logistics of getting around, I booked a day tour and made a friend at the hostel that was with me that day. They say Izalco has the best pupusas, and that's how we needed to start the day. They originate from El Salvador, and are thick corn tortillas that can be stuffed with meats, refried beans, and cheese, depending on what you prefer. The best ones are never fried. Look out for a wood fire oven whenever you go. Despite having indigenous communities, they're not as noticeable as they are in neighboring Guatemala. In the early 1900s, people believed that whoever was indigenous did not have a soul. The Catholic Church took advantage of this. They would not allow people to bury their dead unless it was through the church, and there were fees involved. This was just the beginning. By 1972, whoever looked indigenous or dressed as one would be killed. Even though it's been more than 50 years, the scars remain, and you won't find many people wearing indigenous clothing. Hello from Nahuizalco. This is one of the stops from the Camino de las Flores. It was fascinating to visit a museum and the local school attached to it. Kids visited in their free time to learn Nahua, the indigenous language. This will eventually become an extinct language if no efforts are made to preserve it. It's amazing to see how much the country has changed in a year. I was told by locals that I wouldn't have the freedom I have now, walking around without a guide by my side, being able to visit markets and shops on my own without constant supervision. More than 3 million Salvadorians have now left the country and live abroad. That's practically a third of the population. Even though the land is extremely fertile, there are not enough young people left to work in the fields. This means that more than 60% of the food is imported from Guatemala, and the prices are not low. Around 2% of the population is now in prison. The conditions are horrendous. Many have been sent there without a trial, but most of the population doesn't seem to care about the human rights violations happening. They're tired. They've had to endure decades of violence, which no woman, child, or even elderly person was safe from. And now Bukele is hailed as a hero by the locals. How long will this last? Surprisingly, the Camino de las Flores does not really have a lot of flowers. It's just a symbolic name. There's only one town that really has flowers, the rest doesn't, but it's like you'll still see flowers on the side of the road. Not that many, but it's still like it's a symbolic thing, and it's just the way that it was named. So the quality of Salvadorian coffee is absolutely incredible. However, you might not really hear much about Salvadorian coffee, and that's because the country is so small that it doesn't really get to export that much. And of course, there are other countries in the region like Guatemala, Costa Rica, and by region I mean the whole of Latin America, Brazil, that have bigger markets, and so they can export a lot more. So what does El Salvador do? They focus entirely on the quality of their coffee, and so some of the coffee here can go to up to, what was it, like 450 pounds, $450 per pound, which is absolutely unbelievable. That's how much they're trying to focus on quality instead of quantity. And this is a beautiful cafe called Entre Nubes, which means among the clouds, and it's because there's a certain part of the cafe area where you actually feel like you're walking on clouds, and then there's like flowers hanging from the ceiling. Let me show it to you right now. We spent the whole day going to all 5 towns of the Ruta de las Flores, and a day trip was a great way to experience it all in a short amount of time. We started our day by taking an Uber to the local bus station, and then from there, a bus from San Salvador to Suchitoto. It was only a few USD per person. It was Sunday. We didn't get to see many tourists during our time there, but I was so happy to see locals out and about. Our first stop for brunch was Café 1800, a place that I'd seen before on Instagram. The hype was worth it. The food was really good, and that's Lake Suchitoto in the background. There's like nobody here. How is this even possible? Look at this place. It's absolutely stunning. Life. Beautiful Sunday morning. Sí, gracias, dame un segundito. We took the 15-minute walk downhill from the market square to the lake and got a boat from there. It was 25 USD per person, no matter how many people are on board. This is Lake Suchitoto, and it's an artificial lake. It was created in 1975 with the construction of the hydroelectric plant. More than 60% of the country's energy now comes from it, and it's over 130 square kilometers. People were bought out of their lands and have to move. The crazy part about all of this is that there are now whole towns under the surface, cemeteries, pebbled roads, but the water is really murky, so diving is not worth it here. I bet it'd be fascinating to see though. There's obviously no way I'm gonna go. Just letting you know. There's small islands scattered that you can visit. This one has a bit of a dark tourism involved in it. A small plane crashed nearby, and it was placed here for people to see. You can still see the crosses in the water that mark the place where it crashed. A few stops, some small caves, but overall, nothing much to see. The ride back was absolutely beautiful. You can see how nature has taken over this relatively new lake, and how touristy this place will become in the near future. So there's no water here whatsoever, but normally this is like this beautiful waterfall, river, whatnot. This is great. We just rented that cute little car. Well, not rented. He's taking us around the whole town, the whole of Suchitoto for $10. And obviously there's no way we would have been able to reach this part without a vehicle. Like, there's just no way. So this is pretty cool. Y no le ha pasado nada a nadie aquí. No. Es que veo que dice precaución. Our $10 ride took us around town. We did a short hike by the waterfalls that dried up, then followed it by hanging out in one of the viewpoints where the locals hang out. Suchitoto was a cute town to visit, and I'm glad we came here for the day. I work remotely, so I took small breaks during my time there to see more of San Salvador, and even got a chance to take an Uber to Santa Tecla for some appetizers, views of the city, and of course, the famous rainbow slide. It's only 5 USD per person, and this is the one that's closest to the capital. Everything that we did would have been unheard of before 2022, especially on our own. I'm at a crossroad with my feelings about the situation. All I can say is, visit now, or as soon as possible. We don't know how long this will last. There is so much that I didn't do. I didn't go to the beach or hike the volcano. I also didn't get a chance to spend the night at Lago de Coatepeque or even visit the ruins. People call it El Salvador, the Pompeii of the Americas, because of its archaeological treasures. I made this video simply to show you that despite its tag for murder capital of the world, that's not what the current situation is like. This is what it's really like. Safe and welcoming. Hello there, so it's my last day here in El Salvador, and I was here for about a week. Could I have stayed longer? Definitely. I absolutely loved it. I'll definitely be coming back, but don't forget that I work remotely. I have a full-time job. I work 9 to 5, 40 hours per week, and I managed to travel full-time while doing all of this. So I did all of this while traveling full-time. I'm a bit tired, definitely I am, but you know, that's just the way things are. Since I'm Latina, I definitely had a good chance to talk to a lot of Salvadorians while I was here, and I wanted to ask them about what their thoughts were on the current situation. And everybody, so this government has what currently one of the largest approvals percentage-wise in the whole world. It is insane. I think it's around 98% right now. This is no joke. People are just so happy with the current situation. Will these people be released at some point? If they are, what's going to happen then? For those who were not sent to prison, a lot of them actually managed to escape to the neighboring country. So there's still a lot of violence going on in the surrounding and in the neighboring countries. So that's something interesting to think about. But most importantly, as happy as people are, and as glad as I am that things have taken a turn for the better, it's also important to consider that you know, locking people up is not a long-term solution. If you want to deal with the causes of crime and drug violence, then you need to look into the actual background of whatever caused all of this, and you need to come up with social programs to fix this. Locking people up is not going to be a long-term solution. I believe that most of the people that have been sent to prison are actually gang members. Definitely, I do, but then there are also other people who might have been and are not, and they're sent to prison anyway. They're not getting proper trials, and these prisons that they're being put up in, some human rights experts have even compared them to concentration camps. That's the word they use. That's not the word I'm using. So, however, whenever I ask people, all they say is an eye for an eye. They say that they've suffered so much, and there has been so much violence, just deaths after deaths. I mean, at one point there was like one homicide every single hour of every single day in this country. Things got really rough, and they were targeting absolutely everybody: women, children, older people. So things have taken a turn for the better, which is great. And like I said before, this is definitely going to be the up-and-coming destination in Central America. You should come visit soon. But I'm also encouraging you to visit soon, because we don't know how the gang member and the drug violence situation is going to be dealt with in the future. So for now, it is incredibly safe to come, and I highly, highly recommend it. If it doesn't, then this might just be a temporary solution. So that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed all of this, and follow along for more adventures and travel stories from around the world as I continue my journey to visit every single country in the world. Bye!